Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Welcome back. If you saw my pre-stream notification, we have an important question to answer today. Who stole the weekend? Where did it go? It was just here a minute ago. It was literally right here. Now it's gone. Now it's Monday again. What happened there? Somebody must be held accountable. Slindy, my man, welcome in. Good to see you, buddy. How you been? You got any answers for me? Do you know who stole the weekend? Someone made off with it and left us here on an early Monday morning, staring down a whole work week. And I think they have some questions to answer. Raffy, what's up, buddy? Thank you, man. You like the new background? So that is actually that background is actually what I'm looking at in front of me. That's my bookshelf in my office here. So when I'm looking at my favorite titles up top. And now, actually, when I point at it, actually, look, it's right there. How fun. I'm glad you like it, though, man. Happy Monday to you. Melissa? Hello, hello. Cheers to a new week, huh? Juliana Hendrickson over on the video app. Hello, hello. How you doing? Happy Monday. Jack Ann, good to see you. Oh, we got all the old faces in here. This email never works. Good to see you. Y'all, thanks for popping in. How was your weekend? Did you have a good time? I should probably get my AMA thing up there. Did you do anything cool? If so, please tell me about it. Sung Moon, good to see you. Happy Monday. Y'all like the new background? Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. I was saying earlier that is that's what I'm looking at behind the camera. That's my bookshelf here in my office. This email never works. You saw Rise Against and Papa Roach in Tampa this Saturday. Dude, rock on. It sounds like an awesome concert. That sounds like a real good time. How was it? Michael, what's up, buddy? You said, good morning, Alex. Day 2 of asking for Paragon to drop. Oh, boy. It'll be a hot minute, man. But I do have news for you. Book 5, I over the weekend got the edited manuscript. And responded to all the edits, got it all cleaned up, and returned it to Luke and the editor. So that should be off to Audible probably today. So that is officially the last book of Paragon handed in. It is completely on the publisher now, and I can't wait for it to pop out for y'all to see it. Juliana, you said, how many books have I read? Uncountable. It's probably in the hundreds. I don't think we're at 4 digits. But I don't really know. I don't know what the total would be. Do you know how many you've read? Also, I just noticed your profile picture with the picture of it. That is very terrifying at 7:04 a.m. on a Monday. Slendy, I'm glad you like the background. Thank you. LT, good morning. Good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. Tell me if you did anything cool. We had This Email Never Works went to a Rise Against concert and Papa Roach in Tampa, so that's pretty sick. Let's see, Melissa, you took the boys down to Newport to the aquarium yesterday. Okay. See anything cool? How was the aquarium? Michael, you said, I really love the theme and setting of Paragon. What other series should I read while I wait? So I probably don't have anything similar to that. If you're liking that kind of similar, that kind of scheme of like weak to overpowered main character, definitely look into progression fantasy. Basically every book in the genre is like that, and you can't go wrong. Let's see. Jace, you have a story ready to go. What's the first step in publishing? Well, the first step would be to figure out how you want to publish it. Do you want to go with the traditional publishing route, the self-publishing route, small press, or web novel? Those are kind of the big four. And it really is what you want to get out of it. Do you have an idea between those, kind of what you want to do? Apollo, you said you had a nice chat with your grandparents and your parents this weekend. All right, rock on. I hope that went well. Talk about them moving in with you. All right, that could be nice. It could be nice. Jack Ann, your kids were sick all weekend, and thus the revolving door of plague continues, and we press on. Fair enough. I hope that the plague abates for a little bit of time. You deserve a break from it. Kids, man, they always bring home those sicknesses. Sky, you said I brought Incarnate to your attention? Oh, you're designing a D&D campaign in it now. Rock on, man. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. I hope you're having a good time with it. It's fun, right? It's just plain good old-fashioned fun. Okay, Jace, perfect. You said you're thinking self-publishing is where you want to go. So, self-publishing, you're going to do a lot of the work yourself. Basically, all of the work falls on you, which means you have total creative control of all of it. But you'll be doing a lot more work. If you're going to do self-pub, the thing you got to keep in mind is all of the promotion is going to be up to you. You're going to have to come up with the plan for how to get it in front of readers' eyes. There's a lot of books in the publishing space these days, more than ever, so you'll need to have a marketing plan of some sort that gets it in front of people. If you're talking to the specific how-to of self-publishing, typically you would go with a publisher such as Kindle Direct Publishing, which is Amazon's version, or you'd go with like Ingram Spark, who can also do ebooks and paperbacks. There's merits with each of them. You choose which of those two you want to go with, look into both, and then you'd publish through either. Now, if you publish through like Ingram Spark, you can still have your book on Amazon. That's totally fine. Obviously, if you publish through Amazon, you can also have your book on Amazon. But the main thing to know with self-pub is there's no one to tell you no. You can totally do it. It's just you're going to have to be responsible for commissioning your cover art, your editor, and then the marketing plan to get it sold. Get off my lawn, guy. You said, what do you do when life pulls you away from writing? Like the time just doesn't exist. Oh, man. Yeah, that happens. That definitely happens. I think it's important to not pressure yourself too much about it. Like, things come and go. You're going to be busy. You're not going to have time to follow all of your creative pursuits. Just make sure that, don't worry about it too much, and just make sure you get back to it when you have the time and the energy. Especially if you're writing for fun, for your own, entertainment, your own chase, whatever you're doing. Just don't put too much pressure on yourself and make sure you have fun with it. That's the most important part. I think the best writing comes when the author is having a good time. Calvo, you said you got Kingkiller Chronicles. It'll be finished. So you finished reading it? Rock on. I've heard very good things about it. How'd you like it? Arkin, should I always put in a prologue? No. No would be the answer on that. Prologues should only be there if they legitimately add something to the story. You basically need a reason why they aren't just chapter 1. So always, it's fine to have a prologue, nothing against it. Just make sure there's a good reason for why you're including it. It might be showing an important event that happens beyond the purview of the main characters, early on in the book. Something like that. It could be something that happened, in the ancient history before the story starts. Just make sure it's something that we have to know. It's very important that we know it. And there's a good justification for why it's there. Oh, Jace, you're also an artist, so you can do your own cover. Rock on, dude. Rock on. That's pretty sick. Full package. Self-pub might be a good route for you then. That'll save you a fair bit in the marketing budget. Get off my lawn, guy. You said, I have dreamt of publishing since elementary school. Just haven't ever had the time, it seems. It's hard, dude. It really is hard. Try, like I always say, try to start with short stories. It's a great way to... It's a more achievable form of publishing. It takes a lot less time to write a short story than it does a novel, but there's a lot of value in it. You learn a lot. I think several of our viewers here have been working on short stories or have recently submitted short stories to contests, and I'm sure they could tell you about their experience. So it's not just me yelling at you about short stories all the time. Sung Moon, you have a horrid headache, but at least you can just stay in bed. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but yes, stay in bed. Take it easy. Kick back and relax. Let that headache pass on by, right? Ryan, you said, how did you start writing your book? Because I want to start, but really don't know how. I just kind of started, many years ago. I just started writing in the evenings after classes and then eventually after work. But what I would really say for writing, as I just said a moment ago, is start with short stories. And if that's even feels a bit unapproachable, start with just writing a scene. Literally just a couple paragraphs in the world that you're excited to write in. Could be your own fantasy world, could be fan fiction in an existing universe. But just start small and just really do it because you enjoy it, have fun with it, and you can grow it out from there. And I recommend growing it into short stories next and then novels after that. But if you're asking about literally step zero, just starting it up, just pick an interesting thing. Could just be taking your character down a walk through the main city of the world they're in. Like nothing crazy, just have a little bit of fun with it. Allow yourself just to play in the space and have fun. I think that's important. Shauna Cross, writer, hello. Good morning to you. You have writer in your username. What are you working on? You got some fun projects there you're writing up. Aussie Fortnite bloke over on the video app. You can ask anything, but don't abuse the privilege. But I am open to answering questions about pretty much anything, as long as it's not gonna get me banned off TikTok or other sites, and isn't crude. So ask away, my friend. Caden, you said, how should one get into learning how to better storytell? Ooh, good question, Caden. I think this is something that I'm constantly always chasing as well. How to be a better storyteller. I think one of the best things you can do for this, and this is fun because it's like a genuinely fun thing to do, is just look at stories. Storytelling could be TV shows, books, short stories, poems, like anything. Look at any sort of media that you enjoy. Movies, don't know how I didn't mention that one. Look at any sort of media that you enjoy and really just pay attention to how they tell the story. When are characters introduced? What are their opening lines? Like, what's the first thing they say? When is their backstory introduced? What's their overarching plot? Like, start thinking about stories from a mechanical level, and you'll start to kind of pull back the curtain and see how the sausage gets made, essentially. Another thing that I would recommend is check out this website. I'll put it in chat. It's called helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. Hopefully TikTok didn't censor it. I put it in both chats. It's a wonderful website by an established author, K.M. Weiland. I learned a lot about how to write from her. She has absolute plethora of free articles on everything you can want to know about writing on there. Wonderful website. Aussie Fortnite bloke, you said, when I did English Lit, we were asked to write a story on a person dropping a piece of paper. I did over 6,000 words in just that. I'd love to hear what you'd write. So what would I write on a story about a person dropping a piece of paper? I would give the paper some sort of relevance. I do prefer to write in fantasy worlds, so I'd make it something important in that world. And I would try to tie a surprising event to it. Maybe the dropping of the paper is the final step in some arcane ritual to achieve, some end that they were seeking. Maybe they are connected to the paper some way, and by losing physical touch with it, something negative happens. I'd go with something like that, I think. I do in my most recent book. There is a little side story about an author delivering their manuscript to their publisher, and they just have like the entire thing stacked in loose leaf paper in their arms, and they're like wobbling down the street with it, and it continually threatens that like someone's going to bump into them and all the pages are going to fly away. So I don't know, maybe I did write a little bit about that. Josh, thank you for the follow, my friend. I appreciate that. Pleasure having you here. Super Trooper, you said, is KDP worth it? I personally think it is. I think there's a lot of things to weigh of KDP versus, Ingram Spark are kind of the two big ones that I'm aware of. I don't like having to work with Bezos. I don't like having to support Amazon, but it is realistically, for most independent authors or hybrid authors, it is the way that you can get your work out there and survive in this industry. So until a better alternative comes around, I think KDP is a very good resource. Like, there's a lot of reasons to not use it, but Amazon, when it comes to readers, has like 60 or 70% of the market share, and it's just, you kind of need to be there and selling books to those people. There's only so much that you can ignore that much of your audience, right? Titan Terra, good morning. Thank you for being here, and congrats on member level 15 I just saw. Thank you, Titan Terra. How you been? How was your weekend? We had some fun stuff going on with other viewers in chat. What about you? What have you been up to? Thanks for swinging by. Shauna, you said your work is with a developmental editor, so you're catching up on your TBR list. Hey, congratulations. Developmental edits are an interesting stage. I hope it goes well for you. Rock on. What genre are you writing in? Have I read Skandar? Said Wargamer. I don't think so. Let me pull it up. The name's familiar, but I don't think No, I've not read this. I think I'm aware of it. I think we might have talked about it on stream a little while ago. I've not read it, though. Are you, you like it? Fond of it? It's got cool covers from the quick Google search. In the Shadow of a King book says, hey, man. Howdy. Good morning to you, buddy. Welcome in. Titan Terror, you said someone brought up Lily to me the other day. Have you seen that site yet? No, I have not. Lily. All my Google search on that returned Eli Lilly, the medicine manufacturer. Is there more to the website name that I should be putting in? Let's see. Trait the DM over on the video app said, I currently have a draft of 1/4 of the book I hope to write, about 120 pages, and I'm currently unhappy with pacing. What's a good way to gauge it? Pacing can be tough. What I would do for pacing, so pacing is kind of something that you learn naturally as you practice more. I think this is why one of the reasons I recommend short stories. It'll teach you pacing in less words. But since you're already into a novel, what I would do is look at the typical, like Google the typical 3-act structure for a novel. And you can get an example of what should happen when, and that should help you with your pacing to know when to move your story along through those times. As well, I think that website that I mentioned earlier, I'll put it in chat again, Helping Writers Become Authors. That has it has a great pacing resource on there, talking about when each important event should happen in a story versus like the first pinch point where we first meet the main antagonist and feel, how strong they are, and then like, action or reaction happens to the main character and then their reaction to it. It kind of breaks down all these steps. I think that would help you with pacing. Other than that, it's really just, write and write and write again. And you'll start to naturally feel, you'll get your internal barometer for when pacing, how it should progress. Good question though, my friend. There was another question that I wanted to see. Wargamer, you said, I'm going to write a book, working on the plot just now, and I'm going to be using KDP. Rock on, man. I hope it goes well for you. If you have questions along the way, please bring them here. I'm happy to help. I love chatting with everybody about it. And like I say, don't discount short stories. They're a wonderful way to practice. Titan Terra, you said reset weekend before a crazy next 3 weeks here. You binge-watched TV and did lots of laundry. Hey, that's fine. It's important. I'm glad that you're taking time for that reset weekend. That's very important before you get really busy. What's coming up in the next 3 weeks that you're prepping for? Lily Publishing, you said, Titan Terra. Okay, let me make a note of that. I will look at that after stream. Thank you. Should probably be aware of it. What did you hear about it? Limitless, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Limitless, you asked, have I read or watched Frieren? Now, again, that's another one that sounds familiar to me. Okay, no, I don't think I've watched or read this. I don't know why I'm aware of it. I've definitely heard about it before, but I don't know why. What's it about? Shauna, your book is magical realism. Okay, rock on. That's a fun genre. And I saw, in regards to that, someone asked, I think I scrolled away, so I'm not sure where the question went, but they said, what happens in a developmental edit? Good question. Developmental edit is, there's different types of editing, right? There's like a line edit, which is mainly typo hunting, making sure words are in the right place, etc., etc. There is, like, I'm blanking on the word for it, kind of like content editing, which is like, is your word choice good? Does your paragraph convey the desired meaning, etc.? A third form is developmental editing. This is looking at the story, the plot, the structure. Is the pacing good? Is the story going in the correct direction? A developmental edit would happen before those other two edits to really refine the arc of the story, get it into the shape that you want, and then the author would come in and work with that before handing it off to a line editor or something like that. Developmental editing is an earlier process and looks more at plot and structure of story, to put it simply. Official Pigeon, that's really funny. I appreciate that. You said, I kind of look like Kratos if he was a regular guy. Well, my family is very Greek. And I am bald and bearded, so you know what? I will take the Kratos reference. Just a little less muscle mass, perhaps. We're still working on that one. Fairy Sparkle, you said, what's your book's name? So I have a lot of books out. In fact, you can see them on the background. I kind of got them posted up on the shelves there, but a little bit cleaner to look at. Here you go. Here's several of them, and my newest one is right here. Wriggly Little Hands. It is a comedy fantasy about goblins on a road trip to retrieve the Dark Lord's doomsday weapon so they can help him defeat the forces of good. But they're goblins, so they're going to mess it up. They're going to go astray, get distracted, go on side quests. So if that's interesting to you, want to read about some goofy goblin adventures and a little bit of a satirical take on classic fantasy stories, links in my bio, as well as to all these other books. Check it out. I appreciate it. All right, a lot of questions here. Let me get through them. I appreciate that, everybody. Shane, you said, regarding self-publishing, how do you do that? Or do you publish books a different way? I have published books through, I'm kind of a hybrid author. I've gone through many different methods over the years. I have just started doing self-publishing recently in conjunction with like other publishers I work with. For self-publishing, what you would do is you prepare your manuscript, you get an editor, you get cover art done, and then you choose like Ingram Spark or Kindle Direct Publishing, or any other version of that out there, and you just submit. You upload your manuscript, the software checks it, makes sure it's all good, and then it publishes it where you want it to, and then you go out and you promote it and you try to direct people to buy it wherever they can. Ingram Spark and Amazon, but it's not as effective on Amazon, can distribute it to like barnesandnoble.com, etc. All those book websites, so folks can look it up on those websites and order it. They won't be in stores, but they'll be online. And then obviously you can sell it on Amazon as ebook, paperback, etc. So that's really kind of the gist for self-publishing. You just really upload it to a publishing site and then try to direct people to buy it there. Suitkey, you said tips on writing a fantasy book. Number one tip is have fun with it. The first person that has to have fun with the story is the author. And I swear, I don't know how, but the readers can tell if you enjoyed it when you were writing it. Like the stories that I've been like, I felt like I was cooking, I was having a great time. The readers can tell. They really can. So really have fun with that from the beginning. Aside from that, just read a lot of fantasy, and you'll start to kind of internalize the genre and the tropes and stuff, and you can go from there. Let's see. TNT Jack Gaming. You say I look like Arthur Morgan from Red Dead? I don't know about that one, but it's a cool character, so I'll take it. Fairy Sparkle. Yes, the books. All of my books are available on Amazon. Links will be in my bio if you want to check them out, but they're all there. They're audiobooks as well. Cathos Prime said, "Do I ever do book clubs?" Yeah, a little bit here and there. I've not gotten into them too big, but I'd certainly be interested in doing more. I used to do one monthly when I lived with. I can't talk. I used to do one monthly when I lived in London, but I haven't really done too many since I came back to the States. Let's see. In the Shadow of a King books, you said my series is incredibly action-heavy. Pacing through it had to be very intentional. Sure, yeah. An important tip to keep in mind with that, and I imagine you know this considering you're doing the writing, is your action pieces should also further the story along. Shouldn't be action for action's sake. It should also have stakes that affect the outcome of the story. So every fight scene is also a plot scene. Jack Ann, fully agree. Pacing also doesn't relate to just the action, but rather the dynamics of a scene or a chapter. Titan Terror, you said another self-published friend said he uses Lulu instead of KDP. I haven't done a lot of research yet. Yeah, I'm not aware of it. I've not heard it, but I'll have to look into it. There's other, competitors trying to come up and whatnot, and I'm always a fan of like not giving Bezos more money. But KDP, specifically, buying ebooks through Kindle Unlimited is such a huge part of the reader market these days. Really want to make sure I'm able to reach those readers. Ollie Best said, I hope you're doing well. Is there a minimum pages per chapter? No, there's not a minimum. Honestly, like if you've read like a Dan Brown book, that man will do a 3-paragraph chapter. Chapters go as long as you need them to, or as short as you need them to. As long as they convey the point that they need to convey, then you're good. That's your chapter. So feel free to get creative with it. Mason, you said hi again. I see the new book drop. Congrats. Thank you. Yeah, it's really, it's been out for a little while now, but I do just like to promote it. So if you want to read about goofy goblin adventures in a comedy fantasy world, here you go. Links in the bio. Check it out. I appreciate it. How you doing, Mason? Good to see you, my guy. Cathos, you said, I wanted to write a book, but it involves touchy subjects. Do you know if anything is restricted to write about in order to create a book? No, theoretically. I think the key is you just have to make sure you approach everything with a mature, considerate, and intentional view. There's virtually nothing you can't write about. You just need to make sure that it's done for a reason and that it's done appropriately. It's the touchier the subject, the more respect and careful, handling is required. But theoretically, you could write about pretty much anything. Just, be empathetic, responsible about it, etc., etc. Titan Terra, you said thoughts on 3 acts versus 5 when writing. I don't have too many. I don't worry about act structure too much. I use it as a basic guideline. I don't really dive too deeply into it myself. That's just a personal thing. I find that I write better with a little bit of a looser outline to guide me along. I think both are fine. Both do a good job. And it's really act structures, be it 3-act or 5-act, really exist. So the readers kind of have guidelines. Like, it guides the story in a way that readers would expect. Because whether we realize it or not, we do have established norms for how a story should be told. And it's satisfying to readers, to even us as readers, when the story follows those norms. We want it to be original, but we want it to follow the norms a little bit, hit certain beats at certain times. That's what the act structure is good at ensuring happens. So as long as you're loosely following it, I don't think it really matters between 3 or 5. It's whatever helps you write the story best, I think. Nikki Fats, she said, who is your current favorite author, and do you think they influence your work? Ooh, I like that you said current favorite author, Nikki. You're aware of my thoughts on this. I have several favorite authors, and it rotates week to week who's kind of sitting in that top spot. I think right now I'm really enjoying Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, who wrote the Dragonlance series an eternity ago. But it's very classic D&D inspired, hopeful fantasy, and I appreciate that. So I'd say they're currently occupying my top spot, but depending on the week, it might be Terry Pratchett, might be Douglas Adams, Joe Abercrombie, Michael Crichton. Kind of rotates between those 5. No, they all definitely influence my writing, simply because they're what I read a lot growing up. In fact, you can actually see a lot of those on my bookshelf behind me. Right here, this top middle shelf, right above Full Time, those are like my all-time favorite books, as well as to the left and right. That top row is like my all-time favorite books, if you can see what those titles are. Let's see. Tasha, you said, do you have any advice for a teenager that wants to realize a book? Yeah, for sure. Having been a teenager in that position at one point in time, I guess at this point many years ago, read a lot. Read a lot of books that interest you, not just in one genre either. Pick several genres. It's fine to read mostly in one genre, but like every once in a while, step outside that. Read, if you like fantasy, read a romance book once in a while. Or if you like romance, read a mystery book, a detective noir book, something like that. So read a lot, and then just write, like purely for the creativity and the art of it. Don't hold yourself to any stakes, any word commitment. Just write things for fun. Write a scene with a character in a world of your own creation, or in a world that you just read. And then if you really enjoy that and you want to keep going, try to write short stories. Look into short story contests. There's a lot of them out there for free that have professional judges that will evaluate and give feedback on your work. And short stories teach you everything you need to know for novel writing, but in a lot less words. So I highly recommend starting with those. James R. over on the video app said, how do you write the first 4 lines of your book? Laboriously. The opening line of a book is so important. The opening paragraph is super important. I think those are probably the 2 most edited parts of my book, in that I will work really hard to write a good opening, and then as I continue through the book, I will often refer back to it and make sure it's still accurate and interesting. And even when the book's done, I go back and look at the opening again to make sure it's as interesting as possible, because aside from the cover and the back cover copy, the opening line and the opening paragraph of your book is going to be the most important line in your book. You have to hook readers. If a reader sees your cover and goes, ooh, I want to see what this is, and they check out the book further, they're going to open to that first page, and you got to hook them right there with that opening line. So I rewrite that a lot. It's probably the most important line in your whole book. Ollie Best said, thank you. What have you found better, the main character telling the story or the story being told? I'm not sure if either is best. I think do what's most creatively interesting to you. There's an instinct when starting to write to want to know, like, what's the best way to do this, or what's the norm for this. I think the most powerful thing in writing is your unique voice. So trust yourself and do things that seem fun to you, because the reality of it is every story in the world's already been told, but it hasn't been told by you. You're the one that your voice, the way you perceive the world, the way you describe it, the way you think thoughts, that's something that no one else has, and that's what makes your story the most interesting. story, plot, characters, mystery, all that stuff is fun and it's interesting and it makes a good book. But the most important thing in a good book is, as a reader, I want to pick up a book and see the world through somebody else's eyes, and only you can see the world as you do. So cultivate your voice by trusting yourself and doing what's interesting to you. I wish I had been told that earlier on. I spent too long emulating the authors that I enjoyed, which isn't necessarily wrong, but your writing becomes all the stronger when you start to trust yourself and write it in your own voice. Get off my lawn, guy. You said we all need a little hope right now. Yes. Big agree, my guy. Big agree. Makes art more important than ever. Nikki Fats. You just cracked open The Devils last night. Your first foray into Abercrombie's work. Ooh, buddy, you started with a good one. I'm halfway through it now, and it's such a display of all of Abercrombie's talents. I'm in love with it. How are you liking it? Tasha, you're very welcome. Please, if you have more questions, ask away. Anytime I'm live, no matter what we're doing on stream, I'm always open to questions. Clara, good morning. Good to see you. Welcome back. Pleasure to have you back here. Tara, horror author, good to see you as well. Welcome back, y'all. How was your weekend? I hope you had a good weekend. Did anything cool? Let me know. Get off my lawn, guy. You said have a teen read Robert Cormier, The Chocolate Wars for Character Development. It's a great book. Interesting. I've never heard of that. Let me look into that. I'll make a note after stream. Clara, you have a book for the first line, Trial of the Sun Queen. All right, let me pull that up real quick. We can take a quick moment and pull that up. You say it's got a good first line? We were just talking about first lines, so not doing a full Wednesday style breakdown of the opening, but I'll read the first line and see. Oh. Fair enough. I don't want to... That's fine. That's a good first line. I don't necessarily want to read it on TikTok because I think they get mad at me when I swear. But I like it. For reference, y'all, the first line is, that expletive took my soap. Which is, hey, as an opening line, it makes you ask a question. Typically a good place to be. James R. You said, how do you... Oh, wait, you asked that one already. Your next question was, the book is like a kaleidoscope. The author writes it in his own view. Readers imagine it differently. Well, that's a good point, James, because something I found in writing is that, I think writing, storytelling, is as close as we get to real-world magic. And what I mean by that is, I see the story in my head. I type it down on the page, right? And then a reader reads it. They pick it up. They see the words that I wrote. They read them, and then in the space between them reading them on the page and then imagining them in their mind, they add their own spin onto it. They come up with their own imagining of what I have described to them, and that's really cool. That's the point where my words have created an image in somebody else's head that's been affected by their thoughts and experiences and how they see the world, and it creates something new. And that's super cool. I think that's truly where the magic of writing exists. It's between the space between the ink on the page and your imagination. That's where storytelling lives. That's pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of that. Raider Joe, you said, what celebrity do people say I look like? Well, when I had hair, Andrew Luck, former NFL quarterback, I do look a lot like him. But without hair, I look a little less similar to him. And I get a lot more of... Asmongold a lot. I have a running counter going. Let's see, we're at 53 Asmongold references on stream so far of people just popping in and saying that. So, I guess those two. Tide and Tara, you said, how's the brainstorming for Q2 Freedom going? Yeah, good. I mean, I'm thinking about it in the background. For those that don't know, I am writing 3 more books that are kind of already contracted from me, and then once those are done in Q2 2026, I will be entirely free for the first time in 5 years of no books under contract. So I got to figure out what I'm writing next, and I don't know yet, y'all. We're still thinking about it, but I'll let you know. My current mindset is that I'm thinking it'll be something else in the world of Wriggly Little Hands, but not a direct sequel. I'm working on the direct sequel to this now. My current thoughts are I want to write a lot more stories in this world, but from different characters' perspectives. The goblins will have their second adventure, and then we will go and see some other parts of the world, some other characters. So I think that's the direction we're going right now, but we'll see. We'll see. FC creator Grease said, does it have a Lord of the Rings vibe? Yeah, Wriggly Little Hands does spoof Lord of the Rings as well as other famous fantasy early on, and it starts to kind of go its own direction later on in the book, but it's very much a satire. I like to think of it as it's a goofy road trip through Fantasyland. It plays around with a lot of fantasy tropes, and it's just generally a goofy Terry Pratchett-esque, vibe. Tide and Terra, you said the best part of the reader experience is the world they create. Yeah, I agree. It's really cool. I love seeing how people interpret my work. They come up with things that I never imagined, and very often will point out themes in my own writing that I didn't intentionally put there, but I think are correct. Like, it bubbled up from my subconscious, and people will point it out, and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't even think about that, but you're spot on. That absolutely, works. It's really cool. Pradeep George says, is it okay for a comic book superhero to have 30 pages? So a superhero comic book. I don't know much about comic books. That's an area of writing I've read a few comic books, but I've never worked in that space, so I can't really tell you. Just thinking about comics that I've read, that seems fine. I regret, though, I'm not the best source for comic book information. James R., you said growth in technology has reduced the reader count among people. What are my views on that? I think there's plenty of readers. I think I can't say the overall state of reading, are more people reading now than before? I'm not sure. But I know that the availability of books through programs like Kindle Unlimited is pretty awesome. Libraries have bigger digital catalogs than ever before, and being able to access and read books right on your phone, I think, just is nothing but good for reading in general. So if I had to guess, I think there's probably more readers than before. But I think it's a good time to be an author. There's more authors and more stories than ever before, I can guarantee that. So it's harder to get noticed. But also, because of today's the digital environment, you have more reach than ever before. Self-publishing is more available than it ever has been, which means there's more self-published titles out there and more noise, but also you get to throw, your hat into the ring and potentially be the next book that takes off. Andy Weir of The Martian and Project Hail Mary fame, he started writing a book on his own website, just posting it chapter by chapter for fun. And readers liked it so much that they asked him to compile it into a book, one solid book, and put it on Amazon. That's how The Martian got started, y'all. That's pretty nuts. Any one of us can do that. It's hard, and the odds aren't in our favor necessarily, but it's always a chance, right? And I'd rather have that chance than not. Oh God, Jack Ann, we need a counter for how many people ask about Cyprus on the map. That counter, we would have broken that counter by now. Easily 100 per Friday stream. Sergar0604, which authors do I look up to? I really respect Joe Abercrombie. I think it's pretty awesome how he's just so chill about, my man just sits down, writes books, does a quick book tour, and then sits down and writes the next book. I really respect that. He's one of the big ones. I really like Sanderson in terms of just he's another example of dude just sits down and writes his books. And I think that for all the stuff that we talk about on here, the most important thing is to simply sit down and write. And I really respect authors that do that. I think it's really cool, and I respect when you've already achieved international success and fame, and yet you still keep doing what got you there, right? You've already won the race, but you're still hungry for more. You're just continually writing more books. I think that's awesome. I respect that a lot. Fairy Sparkle, you said, how many chapters is an average book? Is it according to the pages? So it's typically according to word count. Word count's the standardized way that we measure book length because pages vary based on the format. Paperback versus hardback versus especially ebook. But word count is always the same. So what I would do is measure it by word count. So my chapters are around 1,800 to 2,000 words. I like to do shorter chapters. But the number of chapters in a book is largely irrelevant. It's just about the time it takes to tell the story. You could have more short chapters. You could have less long chapters. You could make them all mid-length. It really just comes down to what tells the story best. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Get off my lawn, guy. As a reader, I create expectations of where the book is going, and then am too often disappointed. So you're kind of trying to predict it. I can see that. I find I enjoy it more when I don't predict too much where the book's going. That's personal taste, and probably a pushback because I think of writing on too much of a mechanical level these days. It's hard to turn off the author side of my brain and just enjoy a story. So I try to intentionally not think about what's coming and just let it surprise me. Chunk or Not said, was there a movie or book that drove you to wanting to be an author? I don't think there was one in particular. My mom raised me to read like from really, really young. So basically as long as I can remember, I've been reading books. So all the way up through middle school, I was just reading voraciously. And kind of in middle school, I was like, you know what? I should maybe write my own stories. And there was kind of no turning back from that point in time. So I think there wasn't one in particular, but just a childhood full of reading, especially as an only child. I had a lot of time to kill, right? Ollie Best, do you think you will do a sequel to Rise to Glory? I was thinking the title could be Rise to Glory. Rose to Glory, perhaps? That would be fun. No, I regret to say, y'all, if you don't know, Rise to Glory is right here. This is what Ollie's asking about. I really, really, really like that book. I really had a ton of fun writing it. I would love to do a sequel to it. Regrettably, it just hasn't sold well enough to justify a sequel. I hate to say it, but I write full time, to support myself. So because of that, I have to be careful about where I invest my time. I can only really do sequels for books that have taken off. And Rise to Glory was very well beloved by those that read it, but just not enough people read it to justify a sequel. So that does make me sad. But that is the ugly truth of writing sometimes. Gebegbe says, how long did it take you to become a full-time author? As in from starting to write. So I started to write my own stories in middle school, which would have been like 2007, somewhere in there. I became a full-time author in 2018. So I guess that's 11 years. But, I was in middle school, so I had to go through school, go through college, work a day job for a while before I really turned my mind toward full-time writing. And I was actually a ghostwriter for a while before that. But I'd say the real pivot to being full-time started around 2017, 2018. And we've been going since then. Pradeep George, you said, if you don't mind me asking, how many copies have you sold? Of which book? I actually do keep data on, to the best of my ability, on copies sold of each, so I could tell you per book. It's in the thousands for most of them. Low thousands for most, high thousands for this one and for this one. And it's hard to track because I sell paperbacks, I sell audiobooks, I sell ebooks, and I sell Kindle. I sell the ebook as a Kindle Unlimited edition, so that tracks page reads instead of copies sold. But I do keep data on that. Silent Ghost asked, do I want to come over for a sleepover? It depends. What are we doing, man? We gonna have snacks and a movie night? Sell me on it. Jack Ann Sanderson writes his books and signs tip-ins. That dude's busy. I don't know how he signs as many copies as he does. It's insane. Jazz Zen Meditation. What do you think about a book of short stories? Yeah. Short story anthologies are totally fine. It's it's not perhaps the best way to sell copies. It's not as hot a genre as a lot of other genres, but it totally works. I mean, speaking of Joe Abercrombie earlier, he has a short story anthology out called Sharp Ends, and I greatly enjoyed it. I think they totally work. Pradeep, you wanted to specifically know about copies sold of Rise to Glory? All right, well, I'll grab that data. Let's pull it up. Here it is. Get the big spreadsheet open. Go to Rise to Glory. Rise to Glory is... yeah, bad. 222 ebooks sold, to my knowledge. 25 paperback copies, 400 audiobook copies, and in ebooks, which is measured in page reads, it's at 5,000 page reads. So yeah, that's like I said, didn't sell that well. That's pretty low for me. If you go to something like Warden, which is one of my better selling books, I mean, we're looking at 4,500 ebooks sold, 100 paperbacks, 3,000 audiobooks, and 3,500,000 page reads through Kindle Unlimited. That's more the stats that I'm trying to hit with each of my books. It's kind of where I need to be to make my money back and make it work. So yeah, unfortunately, Rise to Glory fell far short of that mark, despite being a book that I liked a lot. Tide and Terra, you said tips to make sure your first chapter is the best it can be, especially when editing. First chapter's tough. It's such an important part of the book. It has to be edited really well, and it has to achieve a lot very quickly. I think what the first chapter should do, so I like to write my first chapter first, as one might expect, but then when I finish the book, I'll often come back to the first chapter and update it, now knowing exactly how the book ends. I like to update it to kind of match that and work better with it. So I always write it in the beginning, and then I rewrite it once the book is finished. I think really the tips for it is just make sure it introduces your main character well, sells the concept of the book, and has a strong opening. As long as it does those, I think you'll be fine. Hi Torius said, what books have I written? So they're the ones behind me on the shelf, but easier to see perhaps. Here we go. Here's most of my books. I mean, a lot of these have sequels, but these are the ones that I've written. Down here is Lit RPG, and up here is Fantasy, and this is the most recent of them. And let's see, we have The Far Wild as a standalone. It's kind of like a Jurassic Park in a fantasy genre. Kind of an expedition adventure type book. Wriggly Little Hands is a fantasy comedy about a family of goblins on a road trip to retrieve the Dark Lord's doomsday weapons so they can help him defeat the forces of good. But they're goblins, so they mess it up horribly, of course. And Servant of Rage is more like Dragon Ball Z meets Highlander. It's a lot of intense fight scenes, big action, sinister magic, dark, heavy fantasy. And I'm doing the sequel to Wriggly Little Hands now, and I've sold the whole trilogy to Servant of Rage, so books 2 and 3 are coming up right after I finish writing the sequel to Wrigley. All those are linked in my bio. If you want to check them out, they are available wherever books are sold, and you can get them from the links in my bio. I see Kyle over on the video app says, dude, not trolling, do you use any product on your bald head? I don't. I just shave it down kind of short once a week, and that's about all the work I put into it. I used to shave it all the way down to the scalp, but it took me like an hour, and I just wasn't I wasn't into spending that much time on it. So now I just use regular shampoo in the shower, and that's about it. I've not balded enough that it's totally smooth that I need to like treat the scalp or anything. Red said, have you read The Magic of Ordinary Days? No, I don't think so. I've read a fair few classic books, but I've not heard of that one. Who's it by? What do you like about it? Fish asked, do you have any tips for writing a compelling antagonist for your books? Yeah, plenty. One of my things that I'm most excited about with antagonists, that I always try to keep in mind is your antagonist doesn't exist just to like be in the way of the main character. The antagonist should think they are the main character, and they should think the story's about them. Basically, they are doing something for good reason, like whatever their evil plan is. What's their reason for doing it? They should have a compelling, interesting reason for doing it, and a reason that they believe it is the correct thing to do. I think the truth of life is that everybody thinks they're the main character, and so all of your characters should operate like that, especially your antagonist. That's what makes them most interesting, when you give them thought-out reasons for doing what they do. Oh, get off my lawn, guy. You said basically the exact same thing in your reply to that comment. I just saw that. Glad we agree. Firefly, you said you took a lot of the advice the other day. Happy to say that I'm on the way to potentially publishing. Rock on, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad it helped. What specifically were we talking about last time? But I'm so glad that helped, dude. Rock on, and congratulations. Ollie Best, you said, is it good to have only one main character? Mine follows 3 brothers throughout the story. You can do, theoretically, as many or as few main characters as you want. I think keeping it to 3 or less is probably best until you're like, a Sanderson level of author. But yeah, three or less is fine in my opinion. And there's no best way to do it. It's about what tells the story best. Consider that. You should have the number of main characters that are required for the story. And hey, speaking of 3 brother main characters, that's what Servant of Rage is like. So I agree with you there on that amount of main characters. Jack Ann, you asked, have I tried getting Wriggly Little Hands into libraries since it seems popular with the YA crowd? I have. With public libraries, the way that a book gets into their catalog is they need someone that is one of their constituents, isn't the right word, a member of the local community to recommend it, and then the librarians will take a look at it and see if it's acceptable for the library, and see if there's a demand for it in their community, and then they'll include it in their library. Now, I do know that Amazon just launched a way to allow your books to be included in digital catalogs for libraries, so I need to look into that more, because that could be a cool way. That way, I can make it available for libraries to purchase for their digital catalog. Alicia, you said, good morning, Alex. I'm struggling to make my map on Incarnate. Do you have any tips? Well, good morning, Alicia, and sure. I totally get having trouble making the map on Incarnate. Sometimes there's too much freedom in there. You can just do whatever you want, right? And it can make it harder. When I have trouble with a map on there, what I try to do is don't think too long about it. I think it's easy to be perfectionist about it and just like want everything to be right. Sometimes I just got to put some music on, not worry about anything too much, and just kind of like get a bit carefree with it. Specifically for map making, that helps me move on. And honestly, Stream, y'all are really helpful for that, because I can't sit and fixate on one thing forever. I got to keep making stuff. So just put some music on, chill, kick back, and just kind of do some interesting parts of the map. Like don't overthink it, I think is really what it comes down to. I often get caught in that overthinking trap. Dino, you said, what do you think of books written in second person? Personally, I find them a little bit weird, but I can adjust to them if they're well written, and I can get used to it. It's not something I enjoy writing, so I don't do it very much, but I've read second person POV books that I've enjoyed. So I think it's fine. The majority POVs are first and third person. So, if you want to stay with the majority, stick to that, but second person POV can work. James, you said, what are your thoughts on Sora and the impact on Hollywood? Apologies if it's off topic. I don't know what you're referring to. Sora and the impact on Hollywood. Can you clarify for me? And I might be able to give you some thoughts on it. Mystic, you asked, have I read LOTM? I'm not sure what that's an abbreviation for. What is LOTM an abbreviation for? Jack Ann, you said, so basically we should all petition our local libraries for Wriggly Little Hands. Yeah, if you want to, by all means, please. You can do that. Your local library should have a way to submit and recommend books. And hey, look, I'm not going to say not to. If you want to recommend your local library pick up copies of Wriggly Little Hands, please, by all means, I would love to. I would love to see it in more libraries. Lord of the Mysteries, Mystic, that's what LOTM is. No, I don't believe that I've read that. Let me Google it real quick. Oh, it's a popular Chinese web novel. No, I've definitely not read it then. I've not read a lot of Chinese web novels. What is it, Zhanjia? I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation. I've not read too many of those. Now, they're kind of, in some ways, related to lit RPG and progression fantasy. So I've read, a lot of that. But they're not directly the same, So perhaps adjacent to it. I know they're very popular, though. It's a light novel. Okay, yeah, sure. I've read a couple light novels, but I've not read that one. I believe that's a really popular one, right? The Dan Kennedy Show on the video app asked, how do you find an artist if you're trying to make a graphic novel? So I'm not specifically knowledgeable about artists for graphic novels, but artists in general, or artists specifically for cover art, which is what I'm more knowledgeable about because I've had to find several of those. I go to places like DeviantArt or ArtStation, and I constantly peruse on there and find artists whose style I like and who are open for commissions for cover art, and I'll just kind of bookmark them. And I have like a little bit of a Rolodex of artists that I've worked with or might want to work with. I imagine the process would be similar if you're doing it for a graphic novel. You're just looking for an artist who more specializes in that. But yeah, I would say go to websites like ArtStation and DeviantArt where professional artists post their art, their portfolio, and just keep an eye on there and look out for folks you might want to work with. Millie, you said you're not happy today because your backpack broke. I'm sorry to hear that. Hope it's fixable. Hope it's not too bad. Not a great start to the week there, Millie. Dino, thank you for the pumpkin pie. Very kind of you. And we got a tradition around here, so if you give a gift, you get a gift. So Dino, this one's for you, buddy. Thank you very much. I will enjoy my slice of pumpkin pie. It is my favorite flavor of pie. Game Vandal says, good afternoon, everyone. Well, good morning to you, Game Vandal. I hope you're well today. Happy Monday, my friend. Start of a new week. Endless potential. What are we going to get done this week? Who knows? We'll find out. 4-6, good morning, my guy. Good to see you. How's the bean juice? It's bitter today. It's almost gone and it's bitter. I didn't put enough sugar in. And I got up here and I sat down and I started doing stream prep and I took a sip and I was like, oh boy, you undersweetened this. Time to chill. You said, what genre of books do you write and enjoy to read? So here are my books, Time to Chill. I prefer to write fantasy or lit RPG, so lit RPGs are down here, and the fantasies are up here. They're all linked in my bio if you want to check them out. They're on Amazon and Audible and all those good places. But I really am fascinated with writing fantasy right now, and particularly comedy fantasy, like this one right here. This is really where my attention's at right now. So if you're interested in a fantasy comedy about a bumbling family of goblins who go on a quest to retrieve the Dark Lord's doomsday weapon, check out Wriggly Little Hands. As you can imagine, they're goblins, and they don't stick to the task very well. They get distracted, go on side quests, set random things on fire. Typical goblin behavior. So if that sounds interesting, check out the link in the bio. I appreciate it. 4-6, you said, I hate forensics class. My professor won't grade my assignments. So that doesn't sound very helpful. That doesn't sound very helpful at all. Forensics is a really fascinating subject. I took a couple classes in it back in the day. I'm sorry that yours is not going well. I hope you can find a better class for it. Ali Saab Yusuf, you said, how much are your books worth in total? I don't know quite what you mean. Like if you were to buy them all, I mean, whatever the price if you just totaled them all together. They're standard industry pricing. Ebooks are like $4.99 and paperbacks are like $11 to $15 depending. Game Vandal, you're currently on chapter 3 of your Tom Clancy Mafia book. It's coming along nicely. Hey, rock on, dude. That sounds fun. Keep going. Good luck to you. Oh, Yusuf, you meant how much are all of my books that I own in the real world worth? Oh boy, I keep it kind of small. I've sized it down through donating a lot of them because I am a bit of a minimalist, so I don't like to have too many books. I don't know, probably $1,000 if we totaled them all. Maybe a little less. I'm not sure. They've been purchased over years and years and years, you know. Ollie Best said, have you found anything that doesn't work in a fantasy book? I think anything can be made to work if you do it correctly. Perhaps, you know, super advanced technology might be a little bit of a weird add-in in a fantasy book, brings a bit too much like sci-fi. But anything can work as long as it's introduced, you know, in a good way and it makes sense in the context of the story. 46, you said, has Wrigley Little Assistant been finished? Yes, it has. And in fact, if y'all don't know, so Wrigley Little Hands, this is the book I've been selling y'all on. That's my most recent one. I have finished a prequel story for it called A Wrigley Little Assistant. This is done. I actually have it loaded into Amazon. So today I am finishing getting it all set. So y'all, if you are a Discord member or a newsletter subscriber, you will get this story for free this week. If not, if you're not one of those things, it'll be on Amazon for the cheapest I can sell it. But yeah, if you wanted more content in the world of Wrigley Little Hands, we got 15 chapter novelette coming, we'll call it. It's longer than a short story and it's shorter than a novella. But yeah, that's coming out this week. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to get it to y'all. It's been a long time coming. All right, let's catch up on these. Time to Chill. How would you describe a lit RPG? You want to try it, but you're not sure what to expect. So lit RPG, it's an evolving genre, so the description kind of changes over time. What I would say is traditionally lit RPG are books that take place with video game elements. Back in the day, that meant books where characters were literally spending time in a video game and it affected the plot. These days, what lit RPG means is more traditionally books that have the story has a concrete leveling and power system in it. Characters are aware of abilities and levels and level up as part of the story. Think of it as almost like a D&D adventure, except the characters are aware of their spells, how they can level up, stuff like that. And it's incorporated into the story. Time to Chill. If you're looking to try them, feel free. I mean, it's a really exciting time. It's rare that you get to see a genre literally being born and evolving. Lit RPG came to America in the 20-teens and has been rapidly evolving and growing since. And year over year, it's just selling more and more books. It's a very unique time in publishing to see a whole new genre come about. It's pretty cool. JM said, do you have any tips for learning how to write? Not a fan of school. I'm looking to self-teach. Well, it's a good news, JM. I think that's the best way to learn to write. I don't really think you need much schooling for it. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about writing. The way to learn, read books you like, and write stories. Now, if you're writing for the first time, you don't have to start with definitely don't start with writing a full novel. Maybe start with a short story. Maybe start with something even shorter. Just do a scene, a couple paragraphs. But really the best way to learn to write is just to read every book you can in the genre that you're most interested in writing. Read a couple books outside of the genre so you can broaden your horizons. And then just write stories that are fun, that you think are interesting. It's really a learn by doing scenario. You can study and read resources on how to write better and whatnot, but the best way to do it, the best way to learn is just to read books and then write stories you enjoy. Don't worry too much about the technical know-how or what's the correct way to do things. I think the most important thing is cultivating your creative voice, and the only way you do that is by trusting yourself and practicing. I think that's the most beautiful thing about writing. I like this, Game Vandal. You said, Alex, do you have any tips for developing relationships between characters? I'm really struggling. Yeah. Relationships between characters are really those characters having conversations that are more than just about the plot of the book, and then having several of those as the story goes on, and each one is a building block. So say they start as strangers. They're going to have an initial conversation when they meet. They might not even be paying a lot of attention to each other, but they're in the same room having some sort of conversation, right? If you want them to get closer, the next time they have a conversation, bring a little bit more in of instead of just whatever the plot is, whatever the circumstances that have brought them together, have them talk just 20% of that conversation a little bit about themselves or reveal some information. And then you just build on that in more and more scenes throughout the book until they get to know each other, and then you can take that relationship in whatever direction you want. Friends, lovers, enemies, etc., etc. It's really just about characters having conversations about each other instead of the plot. The plot could segue into that and be a medium for those conversations to happen. But yeah, I think that's really it. Adam Smasher, I need help trying to find some way of doing a third-person thing. What I'm thinking of making. So you're thinking of having a voice in the character's head that talks to us, us being the reader, I think? That's interesting. Am I understanding that correctly? You want to have a main character where they have a voice in their head that talks to the reader, but perhaps not to the main character? It's an interesting thought. I've not heard that before. What I would say, just off the bat, in a general sense, is just take a swing at it. Just try it out, because a lot of the things in writing are learned by doing. I've never done something like that. Doesn't mean it can't be done. Not by any means. Give it a try. Just like try it how it seems best to you, then reread it, see how you feel about it. Have maybe someone, a friend or a fellow reader take a look at it and see what they think. But a lot of writing is just kind of exploring in that way. I'm sure it could work. Get off my lawn guy. Good question. You said, is that the line between sci-fi and fantasy? Simply technology. I don't think that's necessarily... Yes, in a general sense, that's the line. In a more specific sense, it really comes down to the wrappings around it. I think it's really about the central creative ideas of the story. In this sense, sci-fi is typically stories that look ahead, deal with advanced technology, but I think more importantly, one of the ways that I've heard sci-fi described that stands out to me is good science fiction doesn't predict the car, it predicts the traffic jam. So like your good science fiction needs to think not just into like ideas for the future, but what are the complications? What are the human effects of these advanced ideas? And I think that's a better way to describe sci-fi. It's more about thinking ahead and what might happen because of it, and it allows us to think better about our present by imagining the future. Fantasy is a little more looking backward, not in a bad way, but I think that's perhaps the more specific kind of distinction between the two. That being said, all genres can be blended together. They're all very fluid things. Vanu, is fantasy your favorite genre? Yes, it certainly is. I read a bit of science fiction, a bit of like modern day thrillers, but fantasy's the one I always come back to. It's my favorite for sure. What about you? What's your book of choice? Glass Crown, does Wrigley read like a book or a comic/webtoon? No, it reads like a book. It does have some fun doodles and art inside of it, but it is, a straight up chapter book, typical text on page. It's very goofy though. A lot of jokes, very silly, but reads like a normal book. Ooh, good idea, Slendy. In regards to the viewer who asked about writing with a character who had a voice in their head that speaks to the reader, breaking the fourth wall, you could say. Slendy says recommend reading some Deadpool to learn how to do that. I know there's fourth wall breaks are a common trope of Deadpool media, so yeah, could be a good way to learn. Bubba Fett, I'm trying to write Bigfoot erotica. Any tips? Well, my friend, I know that is a whole genre out there, and there are plenty of books published in that genre. So go read those. Like with anything, read books in the genre, see what others are doing, take your own spin on it, have fun with it. Yeah, there you go, Jackan. Ice Planet Barbarians. There's a good start in that one, but I know there's a lot more in that genre. It's not a genre I personally enjoy, but look, I I know that it is a popular genre. Vanu, you said, I so love fantasy like Harry Potter, and on sci-fi you love Kepler 62. Okay, rock on. Yeah, solid books. I don't think I've read Kepler 62, but I'm definitely aware of it. There's so many books out there to read, y'all. Glad that you like fantasy, though. It's a good genre. Kuma, what book made you cry that you wouldn't read ever again? Oh, boy. A lot of the ones I read as a kid, Old Yeller, Where the Red Fern Grows, Bridge to Terabithia, those books were great, and they broke me, and I'm not looking for that experience again. These days, I don't read too many books like that because I'm a little more aware that's potentially what's going to happen. But I guess, I read a lot of Joe Abercrombie, my favorite books are all on the top row up here. And you'll notice this whole shelf here, this is all Abercrombie works. And his books are very, very good, but they're not the happiest. So I think that comes pretty close to that regard. What about you, Kuma? You have an answer to the question? What book made you cry that you would never read again? Game Vandal, do I enjoy audiobooks? Or am I more a paper book guy? I really prefer paperbacks, even just reading on my phone. But I can enjoy audiobooks. They're just, they don't... When I listen to an audiobook, I tend to do something else like cleaning or working out, and that means that I just don't focus on the book as much as I want to. So I reserve podcasts for when I would be cleaning or working out or whatever, and I prefer to really intentionally sit down and read a paperback. It's nice to make a whole ritual out of it. Get a glass of sweet tea, sit down in the rocking chair, and actually focus on it. It's a nice way to slow down. Is there a story to your octopus friend behind you? Oh, so you can see him. That's director Lil Kraken, as we call him. He is when the long story. When the NHL expanded to Seattle, the Seattle's team was named the Kraken, and that little guy is a squid or octopus, stuffed animal, but he has a fun little trick where you can pop him inside out, and on the inside he's dark blue and angry, and he has an angry expression, and then you can pop him back out right side out, and he's happy again. So we leave him around the house in various happy or angry moods based on what's happening, and I find it fun. So he just lives around the office, and we joke that he is my stream director. He used to sit on the bookshelf above watching down on stream. In fact, you'll see him on my start and end cards. I'll pop over there real quick. See, you got him on the keyboard right there at the beginning. So he hangs around. Justin Bennington said, "Hi, Alex. My wife has been working on her own book. Do you have any tips for how she could move forward?" So what's she looking to do? Justin, I can do a little more. Give me a little more specificity. Is she writing, or is she looking at the publishing stages? I'm happy to answer any questions she might have. Please ask away. Vanu, you said in fantasy you have so much freedom to write about so many things. It's true. I mean, it's really true for every genre. But I think that fantasy is a good way to create a parallel world to our own, which might teach us a bit more about our own world by looking at it through a new lens. Also, it's just plain fun. It's just the aesthetic I adore. Ollie Best, you said, one of my characters becomes connected to a dragon after said dragon abandons the villain during their turn to evil. Sounds fun. Dragon Rider fiction is also very popular right now. It's been a bit of a comeback right now, a renaissance. Game Vandal, you said, thank you for the awesome stream. You gotta run. Hey, man, thanks for being here. Thanks for the good questions. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a good rest of your Monday. And y'all, if you don't know, I like to do it at least once a stream. I'm author Alex Knight. Thanks for joining me. I'm a full-time author. These are my books here, at least all my book ones. And this is what I do each day. I write books. And on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I stream. And on Mondays, we just do general AMA. Any questions you have, I'm always happy to answer. Anytime I'm live, you can ask any questions you want. I'll always answer. But in terms of stream format, Mondays are AMA. Wednesdays, I ask that y'all bring your favorite book, and we will read the opening lines live on stream, and then I'll break it down from an author's perspective of why are the opening lines good? What was the author attempting to do, in my opinion? And then on Fridays, we make fantasy maps live on stream every Friday. So we're live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 a.m. Central Time. But, slight caveat to that, Wednesday, I'm going to change it up a little bit, y'all. I want to try something a little different. So instead of your favorite book this Wednesday, if you're going to come back and join me on Wednesday, come equipped with your favorite fantasy map. Just tell me your favorite fantasy map from whatever book series. I will pull it up and we're going to look at it and we're just going to geek out over maps for a little bit. I think that'd be a fun one. So we'll give a little bit of break from the opening lines and do that instead. So think about cool fantasy maps that you enjoy and then mention them to me on Wednesday, and we're going to look at them and talk about them. Kuma, in answer to me turning your question back on yourself, you said Osamu Dazai's books didn't make me cry, but they did make you feel sad and you wouldn't want to read them again. Okay, I've not heard of that, I've not heard of that author, so I'm not familiar with their books, I don't think. I don't like sadness these days. There's a lot of stories that make you sad. There's a lot of good ones, and they can be very poignant and do a lot of good things. But I just don't like sadness in my stories for the most part. Nix, welcome back. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Happy Monday to you, by the way. Hope you had a good weekend. Justin Biddington, you said your wife has just been writing and editing, and one day will be looking to publish. Okay, cool. Well, Justin, if she has any specific questions, please bring them here. I'm happy to answer. What I would say now is if she's looking to publish, start thinking about what format. There's traditional publishing, there's self-publishing, there's small press publishing, and there's web novel publishing. Look at all four of those, kind of do a quick Google search on them, look at the pros and cons of them, and start thinking ahead of time about which one you think you want to do. And you can start kind of researching it and preparing ahead of time for that. I think that's a good next step to make. Thank you for the follows, everybody. I appreciate you. I see a couple trickling in. Welcome to the club. I appreciate it. That writer, Arushi, you absolutely can ask a potentially personal question. I'm more than happy to answer. Y'all, I'm going to be heading out here in a minute, so I'll get some last few questions in, and then, I got to get to work today. Jack Ann, you said, any tips for developing a fantasy society whose magic developed from the cure to a plague? Ooh, interesting, Jack Ann. What I would do is I would just keep in mind how it came about and how that might have shaped their rituals. Like, for instance, maybe if it's a cure to a plague, maybe they had a hygiene ritual they did before, casting the magic, right? So maybe that's just become embedded in their culture, and so every time before you cast magic, you have to take a bath, right? And be as clean as possible. Just think about things that we do around medicine and healthcare, and I think you could put that in a fantasy setting and then extrapolate it out to make it an essential part of the magic. That would be my way of thinking about it. It could also be that you could flip side of that. Anything that's associated with sickness and illness, you could make that kind of like the dark magic side of things. Kind of make those your yin and yang to the story. That's kind of how I would think about it, at least. Bo, how many character viewpoints are too many? So as a beginning author, still making a name for yourself, if you're not, Brandon Sanderson or George R.R. Martin, personally, I would keep it to 3 or less viewpoint characters. Doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. Maybe you're really good at writing a lot of viewpoints. I just think for beginning authors, it's easy. It is hard to write a lot of viewpoint characters, so try to make it easier on yourself. Keep it smaller starting out. As you get better, it'll be easier to expand into that. Vanu, what's the longest book that I've read? You read Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in school? I don't remember how long that one is, but it's a chonker, right? It's a thick book. The longest that I've read, I don't know, honestly. I've read the Expanse books. Those get pretty hefty. I've read Game of Thrones in its entirety. Those also get pretty hefty. Those are probably the longest. I'm looking at my bookshelf now. In terms of my favorites, on my favorite shelf, it's going to have to be one of the Game of Thrones books or maybe one of Joe Abercrombie's books that are a bit longer. I don't like long books, though. I tend to read shorter stuff. That writer, Rushy, you said, how many books did I have published before I went full time? Um, Honestly, I only had 2 published when I went full time, which was probably, honestly, a little bit early for me to make the jump to it. But I was doing a lot of ghostwriting at the time, so I was like full time because I was writing my own book and selling it, and then I was also ghostwriting books for clients. In terms of like full time on my own books, it wasn't until about 2020 that I managed that. And at that point in time, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 books out. I had 4 books out under my own name, and had just signed a publishing contract for a 5-book series. So that really helped tip me over the edge to be full time. That being said, what I would say for making the transition to full time is to have a successful book out that you are adding sequels to that series. And also have an established back catalog. The idea being, if you're going to be full-time as an independent, a self-pub author, it's the metrics work different for traditional publishing, so that's a different answer. But for self-pub, what you want is a successful book that's doing well, and then other books in your back catalog. So the idea is, when someone reads one of your books and likes it, they have something else that you've written to then go read to. And the more of those books you have in your back catalog, the better the finances look. Because that way, if a reader reads your book and goes, oh, this is awesome, what else has this guy written? And they find 4 more books in your back catalog, there's a chance they're going to buy all 4 of those books. Whereas if you only have 1 book out, or 2 books out, and people read the first one and they like it, they only have 1 more book to go to. So you're going to want to have several books out, essentially. Let's see. All right, I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then I got to run. Writer Rushy, you said you're currently working full-time and writing in the evenings. Hey, man, respect. Get it. That's how I started. I was working an office job and then going to the university library in the evenings and writing from like 7 p.m. till midnight, or I would write for about 5 hours a night at the library. It's a grind, but hey, it's a good way to start, and you really cherish your writing time. So good luck to you, my friend. And if you have questions as you go through, please ask away. If I'm live, I'm always happy to answer questions about it. What do you do when I have author's block? Writer's block? The Raven Witch. What I do, cool name, by the way. What I like to do is I set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes, and then while that timer's running, I have to write in the world of my story. It doesn't have to be good writing, but I just got a hands-on keyboard, write. I might cut all of those words in editing because they're not good, but what I found is, even if I know it's bad writing, forcing myself to write for those 5 or 10 minutes pushes through the writer's block and jumpstarts the creative part of my mind. And by the time that timer's up, I find that I'm ready to go. Like, now the creative juices are flowing and I'm ready to write. So give that a try. Let me know if that works for you. If it doesn't work, come back and let me know, and we'll try something else. But that's what I do, and it seems to have helped several people that have asked previously. What keeps me inspired to write? Ooh, interesting question. I just love storytelling, and I think that the books that you're interested in writing reflect the person you are at the point in time that you're writing them, and it's really cool to watch that change. When I started out writing, so here's a lot of my books. When I started out writing, Warden and Servant of Rage, these were my first 2 books. And it's really cool to look back at them and see the person that I was and what I was interested in then, and then compare it with like my journey as we moved into writing Rise to Glory, or The Far Wild, or most recently, Wriggly Little Hands, which is a full-on comedy, fantasy, silly, goofy, feel-good adventure book. It's almost a record of who you were and what you were thinking about, and I think that's really cool. So I'm always inspired to keep writing because it keeps me in check with how I'm growing as a person. Honestly. All right. Last few questions, then I do have to run. Vanu said, what do I use to create maps? I use inkcarnate.com. I'll put the name in chat there. Check it out. It's a free online map maker. I love it. It's super, super cool. MKE, you think that's very good advice? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope it helps. Jim, thank you for the galaxy, my man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. And you said you've been listening to Wriggly Little Hands and you love it. Dude, you're just making my day. Thank you so much. And you know what? Hey, we have a tradition, right? If you give a gift around here, you get a gift. So you give a gift like that, man, you got at least 3 goblins for you. I wish I had more for you, but thank you. Here you go. These guys are yours. You're listening to Wriggly Little Hands, so you're aware of the goblins, but 3 rules for them. Never feed them after midnight. Bad things happen. 2, hide every match in your house. They love to start fires. 3, this one's not really a rule, it's just an apology. Your house is never going to be clean again. They are absolute menaces, but they're cute menaces, so it's worth it, right? Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And now you got 6 goblins. I need to get a big one, just a massive one that I can give out for big gifts. But thank you, dude. And I'm so glad that you're enjoying Wriggly Little Hands. Thank you for giving it a try. The audiobook's incredible, right? Sound Booth Theater did such a good job on it. If y'all don't know what we're talking about, it's Wriggly Little Hands right here. Links are in my bio if you want to get a copy. It is a comedy fantasy about goblins on a quest to retrieve the Dark Lord's doomsday weapon so they can help him defeat the forces of good. But they're goblins. You know they're going to get distracted and mess it up. And it's going to be a goofy good time. So feel free to check it out. It's my favorite book that I've written, for sure. Cboy23, you said you're writing a D&D story. Any tips on transferring the flow of players' conversation to paper? Probably slim it down a little bit. Writing in books is much more streamlined than an actual conversations in books are a lot more streamlined than a conversation in real life. So trim it down to its most important parts, and then leave a little bit of personality and humor in there. But I think when people are actually talking, there's going to be a lot more of a rambling flow to the conversation, whereas in books, it's going to be more to the point, with a little bit of a sprinkling of the rambling on the side. MKE, I do not use AI in my writing in any form. I've literally never put a prompt into AI. I stay as far away from it as I can. I enjoy writing. That's why I got into it. I got into this job to write, so I don't know why I'd want a computer to do it for me. Jim, my thoughts on AI as an author are that there are a lot of things AI are useful for. I don't think creativity is one of them. You're shortchanging yourself if you're leaning on a computer to write for you. What's going to make you a better author in the long run is going through the exercise of brainstorming characters and story ideas and plot elements, and then the act of actually writing them down. That's going to make you better as an author. So if you're using AI, you're just shortcutting, and it's not going to work out in the long run. If you're going to write, you got to get better at it. It's like if you're going to play a sport, you practice it because you want to be good at it. Same thing with writing. You got to practice it, and AI just shortchanges you. You don't practice at all with it. All right, last 2 questions. Raven Witch, are my books available in Barnes & Noble? You can order all of them through barnesandnoble.com if you want. They aren't on shelves at Barnes & Noble, but they'll be available in their online catalog. The links in my bio do have it to a couple bookstores where you can pick up copies, but you can also order them through Amazon if you want. And for Wriggly Little Hands, you can get signed copies from my local bookstore. That's also linked in my bio. So if you want to support my local bookstore and get a signed copy of Wriggly Little Hands, links in the bio. All right, last one. Kuma, this was really interesting. With the endless amount of books that have been published, how do you make your stories unique? That's the struggle, isn't it? So it's a 2-part answer for me. That's why I say that the most unique and important thing you can have as an author is your creative voice. That's why you should cultivate and focus on that. That's what makes your stories unique. So that's how you make them unique. Now, making them unique is different than making them stand out to readers when readers are perusing a bookshelf or an online catalog. That's going to come down to cover. That's where it's really important to have a good cover artist who can make something stand out and unique. And that's why I'm really happy with my cover art for Wriggly Little Hands. I've taken this book to book fairs, book sales, have it in bookstores. I've seen people 20, 30 feet away spot this cover and peel off of the path they were walking to come over and learn more about it. So in terms of making your book stand out, in terms of sorry, one moment, y'all. Just have some spam to deal with over on the video app. There we go. Taken care of. So in terms of making your book stand out, I think that it's really about cover paired with your unique voice inside of it, and just telling a story that is interesting and fun to you. Alex Christeku, good to see you. I'm just wrapping up today, but the map's going well. We'll be working on it again on Friday. And then your question, I guess we'll stretch it. We'll do one more question, then I'm wrapping up. I really got to get to work. What do you recommend as a beginner? Self-publishing or going to a publisher? It's not really so much about beginner that affects that answer. It's about what experience you want. Traditional publishing is harder to have your book published through, but you'll have more support and I would say a better chance at having good sales. Self-publishing is easier to get into, but the responsibility of marketing the book, of getting a good cover, of getting it edited well, that all falls on you. If that's something that you're interested in, then self-publishing's a good way to go. Traditional publishing, you're going to spend more time convincing an agent and a publisher to pick up your book, but once you achieve that, they're going to give it a better chance of selling more copies. But there are pros and cons. That's a very high-level summary. There are pros and cons to each. I would say do a lot of research into what I consider the 4 types of publishing right now. There's traditional publishing, there's self-publishing, there's small press publishing, and there's web novel publishing. I would look at all 4 of those, Google search them, see what people are saying about them, and see which one seems best to you. All right, Skari, your last question. Can I speak German? I know a bit of German, but I can't speak very much of it. It's been a long time since I've practiced it. I'm mainly learning Korean and Spanish these days. Those are my 2 that have caught my attention, but I did take 6 years of German in school, and I was a bad student. So last time I was in Germany, it came back to me quickly, but, you know, I don't use it too much in my daily life, so it falls away. But folks, thank you very much for being here today. I hope it was helpful. I appreciate your questions. Very fun questions today. Thank you for that. We will be back at 7 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday. And like I said, come equipped with your favorite fantasy map. Just tell me the book that has your favorite fantasy map in it, and we're going to look at some maps on Wednesday and talk about it. Just kind of have some fun with it. Be a little bit of a different format, but I think it'll be a fun one. So think about fantasy worlds that you like the map for, and come equipped with that on Wednesday. Until then, as always, folks, a very special thank you to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for the use of his songs Farm, Manor, Cottages, and Northern Glade, which have provided our background music today. As well, a special thank you to community member Raffi the Engineer, who produced and provided our 5th background song for today's stream, entitled Midnight at the Round Table. Raffi, my guy, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Of course, no stream is complete without a shout out to my moderators. Thank you, Melissa Lee 28, Raffi the Engineer, One Happy Harpy Simp 1X, other name wasn't available, aka Slindy, Alicia T, and Aaron Winnick. Thank you very much for moderating. I appreciate y'all. Couldn't do it without you. But thank you as well to all the members of chat. Y'all keep it nice, fresh, good vibes, good questions. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for that, y'all. Lastly, if you've enjoyed today's stream, please give me a follow so I can see you on the next one. That'll be Wednesday at 7 a.m. Central Time. I will be back. I hope to see y'all then. But thank you for being here today. It's been fun. I hope this has been a good start to your week. And y'all, it's the first day of a new week. Limitless potential ahead of us. Let's get out there and do some cool stuff, huh? So on Wednesday, we'll come back. We'll see how we did. On Friday, we'll wrap up the week. But until then, let's make it a good one, y'all. Thank you for being here. I hope you've had a good time. I certainly did today. And I'll catch y'all on Wednesday. Until then, be excellent to each other, y'all. Peace out.